When you think about it, it's incredible the number of things you can do with eggs. For an incredible way to brighten up your menu, remember
the incredible edible egg. The incredible edible
Due to the nature of this video and the remarkably aggressive and underhanded behavior of the egg industry, which I will be highlighting today, I feel it's prudent to start off this video with a little bit of this. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comments, news, reporting, teaching, scholarship, parody, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. Filing a false DMCA claim is a felony in the United States. Now that we have that out of the way, let's delve into the Great Egg Conspiracy. A bite-sized vegan expose. I knew that last one was too much. Hi, it's Emily from Bite Size Vegan, and welcome to another Vegan Nugget. This is the first video in a series I'll be releasing on eggs. Today's video is all about the underhanded tactics of the egg industry in the United States. For decades, the American egg industry battled and continues to battle anyone who dares to say anything even slightly negative about eggs, especially if these statements are backed by credible scientific proof. Today, I'm going to lead you through some of these exchanges, which range from completely absurd and nonsensical pseudoscience to illegal and aggressive corporate sabotage, all the way to outright threats of physical violence. For citations to all of the documents and studies I'll be referencing, check out the blog post for this video, which is linked in the sidebar there and in the video description below. Our journey into the egg controversy begins in 1961 when the American Heart Association took a stand on the association between dietary cholesterol and heart disease, namely that there was an association. In response to this devastating news, the egg industry formed the almost impartial-sounding National Commission on Egg Nutrition in order to fight these claims in the most American of ways, by launching a massive advertising campaign. The Wall Street Journal and many other media outlets sported ads combating the, quote, theory of saturated fat and cholesterol, with claims such as, there is absolutely no scientific evidence that eating eggs, even in quantity, increases the risk of heart disease. The American Heart Association responded by complaining to the Federal Trade Commission about what they called false, deceptive, and misleading advertising. After considering both sides, the FTC filed a formal complaint against the Commission on Egg Nutrition and its ad agency. The Commission on Egg Nutrition then lawyered up, but were told by their own lawyers that, quote, the chances of beating the lawsuit on scientific grounds are almost nil. In the 1976 FTC decision, the judge called the Commission on Egg Nutrition statements false, misleading, deceptive, and unfair. The decision said that the egg advertisement claims, such as, there is competent and reliable scientific evidence that dietary cholesterol, including eggs, decreases the risk of heart disease, and that the human body eliminates the same amount of cholesterol as that eaten, were untrue. The judge also pointed out that the name National Commission on Egg Nutrition implies an impartial, independent, quasi-governmental health commission, when in fact it is an association of persons engaged in the egg industry. The Commission on Egg Nutrition argued that making false claims is within their rights of free speech, but were unable to convince the FTC, the court, or even their own lawyers. So they again took to the most American of routes and set out to dupe the American public by paying for scientific studies that would reveal the cholesterol in eggs to be harmless. In reviewing such scientific literature, nutrition expert Dr. John McDougall pointed out that of the 6 studies in the medical literature that failed to demonstrate the significant rise in blood cholesterol levels with the consumption of whole eggs, 3 were paid for by the American Egg Board, 1 by the Missouri Egg Merchandising Council, and 1 by the Egg Program of the California Department of Agriculture. Support for the 6th paper was not identified. And that the trick is in knowing how to design your experiment so you will get the results you are looking for. To get little to no increase in cholesterol results, you first saturate your subjects with cholesterol from other sources, because studies show that once people consume more than 400 to 800 milligrams of cholesterol per day, additional cholesterol has only a minor effect on blood cholesterol levels. Well-designed studies by investigators independent of the food industry clearly demonstrate the detrimental effects of eggs on blood cholesterol levels. Sure enough, non-egg industry financed studies consistently show that dietary cholesterol is harmful to our health, which of course the egg industry found less than exceptional. I just wanted to see if you were still paying attention, because it only gets better from here. In a moment of virtually edible incredibleness, in 1976 the egg industry birthed from its collective cloaca the American Egg Board, whose mission, according to their website, is to, quote, allow egg producers to fund to carry out proactive programs to increase demand for eggs and egg products through research, education, and promotion. And yes, that is a direct quote. Around this time, our little engine that could, the American egg industry, continued their effort to disprove the wicked cholesterol conspiracy. The United States Senate Select Committee on Nutrition and Human Needs, known as the McGovern Committee after its chairman, was originally formed to address concerns about hunger and malnutrition in the United States, but expanded in 1974 to include national nutrition policy and go after the major killers of overnutrition, with heart disease leading the pack. Needless to say, the egg industry was concerned. In an effort to clear its besmirched name, the industry presented 5 studies they felt completely redeemed eggs as a viable nutrition source. McGovern found the studies so confounding that he asked the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute to review them. As John Robbins reported in his groundbreaking book, Diet for a New America, the Institute carefully examined each of the 5 studies, then reported to Congress that the studies seemed deliberately designed to distort the facts. The Institute's impartial appraisal was that the studies were, quote, seriously flawed, meaningless, and should be discarded. But don't worry, our little underdog fighting against big government didn't give up. They again showed their true American colors by launching yet another advertising campaign, this time armed with scientific evidence based on the 5 studies that had just been completely disproved. I'm sorry, I'm just so proud to be an American right now. But back to our unsung hero, who continued to claim that dietary cholesterol is an essential nutrient, and that our bodies naturally lower their cholesterol production in response to higher dietary cholesterol consumption. To back up this last claim, the egg industry cited outdated cholesterol studies which used isolated cholesterol crystals before it was known that our bodies don't absorb cholesterol without the presence of dietary fat. But who needs valid, up-to-date science when you have the results you want? Sadly, for the egg industry, prevailing experts like Dr. Robert Levy, director of the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute at the time, stated that, as far as we can determine, all of us would do just as well if we had no cholesterol in our diet. Cholesterol can be made by all of the cells in the body, so we don't need to take in any. And other experts, such as the Task Force to the American Society of Clinical Nutrition, stated that there is no known evidence that low cholesterol diets are harmful, or that dietary cholesterol is an essential nutrient in any human condition. John Robbins, in Diet for a New America, wrote that under court order, the egg industry finally had to stop running ads that represented cholesterol as an essential dietary nutrient. And the court told them, once again, to stop denying the link between cholesterol and heart disease. But fear not, such lies would never sway our steadfast egg industry heroes. If you can't find an expert to tout the wonders of your products, you can always buy one, right? The executive director of the Center for Science and the Public Interest, Michael Jacobson, stated, in June 1980, a committee of the National Academy of Sciences issued a report defending the current fatty diet. The main authors of the report were professors who had for many years received grants from or were paid consultants to the National Dairy Council, the National Livestock and Meat Board, the American Egg Board, and other industries whose profits depend on America's pathogenic diet. One such professor was quoted in the press as being surprised that people thought the $250,000 he received as a consultant to the egg and other industries would cloud his objectivity regarding the nutritional value of eggs. In 2012, the egg industry found itself in a bind once again when a study arose comparing atherosclerosis in smokers and egg eaters, finding that those who ate the most eggs had as much as 2/3 the risk of those that smoked the most, the equivalent of a pack-a-day habit for 40 years or more. Internal memos retrieved by the Freedom of Information Act and highlighted by the nutrition powerhouse himself, Dr. Michael Greger of nutritionfacts.org, reveal the egg industry tried to pay scientists to speak against this study. When they were unable to find a scientist willing to refute the study, a miracle occurred. An email from an MD, PhD, MBA, or doctor, as Dr. Greger says, discredited this study. Yet, when the study's principal investigator responded, they found out that the doctor didn't exist, and that the email had come from a hacked email account of someone who had been on vacation. As we've seen so far, the unflappable egg industry doesn't let something as trivial as the truth get in its way. In 2006, 30 years after being told by the FTC to stop making false claims, the egg industry was still at it. Internal documents obtained through the Freedom of Information Act, and again highlighted by Dr. Greger, showed the egg industry drafted a letter to magazines claiming that the American Heart Association changed its recommendations to approve an egg a day in 2000, and eventually eliminated its number restriction on eggs in 2002. Dr. Greger produced a response from the head of the USDA's Poultry Research and Promotion Program, qualifying that the recommendations never changed. What actually happened was, in response to a question posed by a planted audience member, the American Heart Association had acknowledged that a single egg could technically fit under the 300 milligram a day total cholesterol limit set for individuals with normal cholesterol levels if you then eliminated all other forms of cholesterol from your diet. You see, a single egg contains between 213 and 275 milligrams of cholesterol, which is actually over the 200 milligram per day limit for people with high cholesterol. As an interesting point of comparison, KFC's Double Down sandwich, which features 2 chicken breasts, bacon, processed cheese, and a dollop of KFC's special Colonel sauce, contains 150 milligrams of cholesterol, 60 to 125 milligrams less than a single egg. The most recent display of tenacity, ingenuity, and total balls-out brazenness on the parts of the egg industry is the attack on Hampton Creek, formerly Beyond Eggs, makers of Just Mayo and other plant-based foods. In a 2-year battle during which they violated no less than 5 laws, the Egg Board pulled out all of the stops to take down what they saw as a, quote, crisis and major threat: eggless mayonnaise. The American Egg Board went for a multi-prong attack. In December 2013, they reached out to Anthony Zalessi, an external sustainability contractor and self-proclaimed eco-entrepreneur, who had said that he could have Whole Foods refuse to sell Hampton Creek's Just Mayo. It would only take a single phone call and, of course, an implied fee. When they failed to stop Whole Foods from carrying Just Mayo, the American Egg Board went to Phase 2 with the help of the USDA. In January 2014, Roger Glashoff of the USDA proposed to report Just Mayo to the FDA for a false labeling claim. The FDA issued a warning letter to Hampton Creek about misleading consumers by using the term mayo and the image of an egg while their product did not actually contain eggs. Because that's the most misleading advertisement we've come across so far. To continue their full frontal egg salt, that's the last one, for real. The American Egg Board hired Edelman, the world's largest crisis management firm, to lead a campaign against Hampton Creek, with the USDA approving the key messages. They budgeted $33,000 to pay popular food bloggers for positive pieces on the wonders of eggs. Because the union of a massive government-backed group and a multi-billion-dollar corporation is far better than either on their own, the American Egg Board backed Unilever, the makers of Hellmann's mayonnaise, in a suit that they filed against Hampton Creek on October 31, 2014, again for the product not actually containing eggs, and thus violating the United States federal standard of mayo. Because in this country, we have principles. Sadly, due to overwhelmingly bad press, Unilever dropped the suit 2 months later. But, as we know by now, the egg industry is never one to say, well, we did our best, let's move on. In the grand finale of their ingeniously crafted multi-prong attack, they whipped out their most carefully crafted weapon yet: flippant threats of violence and murder. Both Mike Spencer, executive vice president at Hidden Villa Ranch, a Hampton Creek competitor, and Mitch Cantor, the executive director of the American Egg Board's Egg Nutrition Center, joked about putting out a hit on Hampton Creek's CEO. So let's say, just for argument's sake, that the cholesterol in eggs isn't bad for you and that consuming them won't kill you. Apparently, creating a plant-based alternative to them just might. Thus ends the 2-year epic of Big Egg versus Hampton Creek. Or so we hope. Interestingly enough, while the American Egg Board and the USDA project a unified front in public, behind the scenes even the USDA has to try to rein in the apparently boundless cojones of the egg industry. In another juicy exchange unearthed by the Freedom of Information Act and phenomenally documented by Dr. Greger in a video linked in the blog post to this video, we see the egg industry trying to create advertisements with American Egg Board money. You see, when an egg company wants to create an ad, they can do so with their own funds and say absolutely whatever they want, or they can dip into the expansive advertising budget of the American Egg Board, but then be subject to the USDA's regulations. Now keep in mind that the USDA has a vested interest in marketing eggs and basically has a bromance with the American Egg Board, yet still has to put its foot down on the overzealous egg industry's penchant for untrue claims. In this fascinating and somewhat comical email exchange, the USDA repeatedly tells the egg industry that they cannot legally call eggs healthy, as the official FDA rules for the term healthy require that a food have saturated fat levels of 1 gram or less per 100 grams, less than 10% of calories from saturated fat, and 90 milligrams or less of cholesterol per serving, which even half an egg fails. Legally, eggs can't be called nutritious, but can be called nutrient-dense, as there is no legal definition for nutrient-dense. As Dr. Greger says, even Twinkies can be called nutrient-dense. Eggs can't be portrayed as a diet food because of their saturated fat and cholesterol content, plus they contain twice the calories of anything that can be labeled low-calorie. Eggs can't be called relatively low in calories, low in saturated fat, or relatively low in fat. Eggs can't even be called a protein-rich food. It's illegal to say they contribute nutritionally, are healthful, or even contribute healthful components. They can't say eggs are good for you, or an important part of a well-balanced healthy diet, or even safe. Yes, it's illegal to say eggs are safe, with more than 100,000 Americans poisoned by salmonella every year from eggs. The American Egg Board can't even mention anything but hard-boiled and dried eggs, as even their own research shows that sunny side up, over easy, and scrambled eggs are unsafe.
A few words of caution. Eggs, like other foods, are susceptible to bacterial growth, so use the same care with them as you would with other food products.
The USDA also encourages crafty thinking. When told they can't say that eggs aid in weight loss, the egg industry instead tried can reduce hunger, with the USDA's shining approval of their clever use of semantics. Because food that reduces hunger is a crowning achievement of agricultural engineering. With all of this wordplay, it seems only natural that the American Egg Board decided to really bring home the bacon. Kevin Bacon. If you notice in the ad, Mr. Bacon mentions that an egg contains 6 grams of high-quality protein to, quote, keep you fuller longer and help you stay energized all morning. He doesn't say healthy or nutritious, but is certain to mention it helps you stay full. And with all that fat and cholesterol, it better. The interesting part is that Kevin Bacon does say, are you ready to start eating a nutritional powerhouse of a breakfast? The very term that was formally disapproved by the USDA in the email exchange. So either the USDA has relaxed its standards, or this was allowed because he technically doesn't say that eggs are a nutritional powerhouse of a breakfast, but rather simply asks the woman if she is ready for a breakfast that is. Hats off to you, American Egg Board. Way to step around those cholesterol-laden mines and give the American public what they want. A celebrity pimping a food the public loves, which has been shown time and again to contribute to our nation's #1 killer. Way to tell the good public how healthy they are being by continuing to consume your misunderstood gem of a product. Seeing as how you've paid professors, scientists, and executives to manipulate and misrepresent facts and spent billions on fierce advertising campaigns backed by thoroughly disproved science, it really makes sense to step it up to a high-name celebrity who, I'm sure, performed for a nominal fee. Government-regulated money, hard at work. Though, to your credit this time, you did use it to promote eggs, as is your mission, rather than fund illegal attacks on competitors or corrupt studies based on junk science. Way to go. Really. Now all you need is actual facts. Believe it or not, this video is but a peek into the underbelly of the food industry in America. The meat, dairy, and egg industries have enormous sway in our government, our dietary guidelines, school nutrition education, and so many other far-reaching facets of our society. I hope that this has been informative and illuminating. The time it took to produce this video clocks in at around... If you'd like to help support Bite Size Vegan so I can keep putting in the long hours to bring you this educational resource, please check out the support links in the video description below, where you can give a one-time donation or receive perks and rewards for your support by joining the Nugget Army. The link for that is also in the iCard sidebar. Please share this video around to spread the truth. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the egg industry exposé. That's really it. Share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, be sure to hit that big red subscribe button down there for more awesome vegan content every Monday, Wednesday, and some Fridays, and not to miss out on the rest of the egg series. And remember, extra resources and citations for everything I talked about are in the blog post for this video, linked up below and in the sidebar. Now go live vegan, be exceptional. For real, I'm done. And I'll see you soon. Extra, read all about it. Extraordinary expose on the executives of the egg industry. It felt really good.